So, hello everybody. Today we have our office hours. They're a little bit more minimal than usually because Sebastian, who's usually presenting, is in Tokyo on the Linux Foundation conference there. So today we'll quickly go through the last weekly updates, last 2 weeks of activity on our side, and then see if there are any questions. Now I will start screen sharing. I hope you can see my screen. Awesome. What we can see here is over the last 2 weeks, we actually had only one weekly update. And the reason is that last week we had kind of a big event. Last week, we have finally released our first beta release. This beta release, in essence, marked the first release that is actually using the new implementation of the registry. So the one that is in line with the registry that we want for our stable release. It also included some features, some bug fixes, documentation improvements, but really the core improvement here was the change of registry. The registry is now based on R2 and Cloudflare, served basically as static files, and that's been working great so far. It's been working fast. We've been getting a lot of traffic on it, and we haven't had any problems with it. Now, we also released a second release, and that I'll come back in a minute. So there was today's weekly update. As mentioned, we had the beta released, and there was the beta 2 release, which actually happened yesterday. And the main thing there was a bug fix. So we had a bug in the global schema provider cache, which could slow down the execution of Tofu when running with older versions of providers. In practice, it could slow them down significantly to almost unusable speeds, but fortunately that is now fixed. And with that, we had the beta 2 bug fix release, and now it's all working good. Other than that, work is happening on the Tofu migration path on the documentation side, and making sure that we are dropping replacement, making sure that all providers and modules are available, basically once we have the stable release, we want this migration to be smooth for people and people not to get lost in. So yeah, that's one avenue we're working on. And the second main avenue is the registry. And in the registry, as I said, we're now hosted on R2 with Cloudflare. This is full static storage. We are monitoring not found codes, people using the providers and modules. We're finding some edge cases, but basically knocking them out until nothing is left, and we're generally encouraging everybody to try to run Tofu init with the code bases to make sure that all the providers and modules they are using are available. Right now, we're working on ironing out the final parts of the submission workflows for both providers, modules, GPG keys, so that people can submit this once they have some new providers and modules to add to our registry. And that's kind of what actually we've been working on for the last 2 weeks, the main points. Yeah. Are there any questions? I think we can get right to those.
For the initial providers and modules that you've put all in the registry, is that something that is going to continue to be done, or is the expectation that that was like a one-time thing and going forward they have to be like explicitly published to the registry?
Yes. So right now we have tried to set up a fairly backwards compatible set of providers and modules. If there is something that we've missed and that we notice that we've missed among existing providers, then we will backfill those even later. So based on, for example, seeing a lot of 404 codes. But other than that, for new providers that are being created, there will be an issue form to fill out on the registry. And this issue form will then automatically, via GitHub Actions, submit a pull request in the right form, which will submit a new provider and or module to the registry. And so it will be a bit like Homebrew, where you have to submit a formula, I believe it's called, for a given software once, and yeah.
It's worth
Okay.
saying for the first couple of weeks, I think we're happy to be quite flexible. We may add some things ourselves rather than waiting on provider authors to go and add their own things just to smooth the process.
And future
right.
versions of those, will they be picked up automatically, like a new version of that provider module, or like would that be picked up automatically, or does someone need to do something again for that?
Yes, those will be picked up automatically. We will basically have a scraper running once every hour, and picking up new versions of providers/modules. So generally, there will be a delay of versions appearing on the registry, but it will be picked up automatically. Longer term, we might introduce a way for provider and module authors to use, for example, a GitHub action that will automatically submit version updates, but that won't be in place for the stable release. We see that as a nice to have improvement. But great question.
And at this point, the turnaround time is sub 2 hours in most cases for a new version after it's been published.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, so maybe one more thing that I will tell here regarding timelines. So regarding timelines of the stable release, right now the two kind of probable dates for the stable release are either December the 20th or January, second week of January. I believe that's January the 10th or something like that. Those are the current dates we are looking for regarding possible stable release dates. In practice, we plan to have a release candidate at least a week before a stable release. So with the current timeline, we hope to have a release candidate out next week so that we can make a stable release in 2 weeks. That is the most optimistic, most optimal scenario. But if we have some things that we still need to fine tune prior to that, we might delay it to the 10th of January, so that we don't make a release like during the holiday period where a lot of the people are off and a lot of people could also miss the announcement this way. So we'll either do it before or we'll be patient and wait until after. All right. So with this, I suppose we can actually wrap this up. Thanks everybody for joining. Have a nice evening, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. Yeah. Cheers. Bye.